You see that copper still hissing in the back of the barn. You see the jars lined up behind it, glowing gold in the lamplight. You see the Amish man sitting beside it like he has done this 1,000 times, because he has. And right now, in 2025, what you are looking at would make most Americans nervous, because we have been told for 90 years that this way of living is gone. But not him, not in that barn, not in that community. There is a reason for that, and the reason is older than the country itself. The first time I drove out to a farm near Millersburg, Ohio, I spent 20 minutes looking for the thermostat. There wasn't one. There was no meter on the side of the house either. And here is what I learned standing in that barn that the extension office in my county would never put in writing. The average American family pays about $28,000 a year just to stay connected to the grid, the insurance system, and the water company. The Amish family 3 counties over pays almost nothing. Same weather, same soil, same country, different rules. They drink water from a pump sunk in 1911. They store butter in a stone trough cooled by a spring. They cure pork that hangs in the smokehouse for 18 months. 300,000 Amish across 31 states are doing this right now, today. While the rest of us pay an average of $410 a month for utilities they pay nothing for. In 40 states, what they do every morning before breakfast would make a permit office uncomfortable. They keep doing it anyway, because it works, because it is cheap, and because it never failed them when modern systems did. I want to walk you through 25 of these off-grid tricks the Amish still use today, and at the very end I am going to share one specific technique I found buried in a 1937 USDA bulletin that almost nobody alive remembers. You can use it this weekend, in the house you already own, with materials from any hardware store. Let's start with water, because water is where the whole story begins. In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, I stood next to a hand pump that was sunk in 1911. The wood handle was worn smooth from 4 generations of palms. That pump still draws clean water from 42 feet down, with no electricity, no pressure tank, no permit, and no monthly bill. The family that owns it has never paid a water utility 1 penny. Not in 1911, not in 1955, not in 2025. That kind of well is now restricted or banned in dozens of counties across the United States. In some places, you cannot legally drill a hand pump well on your own land without paying for licensed contractors, county inspections, and permits that can run past $4,000 before a single shovel hits dirt. The Amish drill them anyway, often using a sand point method that costs under $300 in materials. They have been doing it this way since the 1860s, when the Reverend Jacob Ammon's descendants brought the technique west from Pennsylvania into Ohio and Indiana. The second trick is the gravity-fed cistern. You catch rainwater from the barn roof, you store it in a stone or concrete tank above the house, and gravity does the rest. No pump, no pressure, no power. In 40 states, collecting rainwater is regulated, taxed, or restricted in some form. Colorado banned it outright until 2016. The Amish never stopped. A single 1,500-gallon cistern, built once, gives a family clean water for laundry, gardens, and livestock for an entire dry summer. The whole system can be built for under $900 in concrete and pipe. The third trick is the spring box. If you have a hillside on your land, you do not need a well at all. You dig down to where the water naturally seeps, you build a small stone or concrete box around it, you pipe the overflow downhill into your kitchen, and you have running water forever. I watched a family in Holmes County draw cold, clear water this way that tested cleaner than the municipal supply 6 miles away. The county made them install a backflow preventer. They installed it. They still don't pay a water bill. The fourth one will surprise you. It is the ice house. Before refrigerators, every Amish farm cut blocks of ice from frozen ponds in January, packed them in sawdust inside a stone-walled ice house, and used that ice through August. Sawdust is the secret. Sawdust insulates so well that a properly packed ice house loses less than 15% of its ice in 7 months. The University of Wisconsin tested this in 1923 and confirmed the number. Some Amish families still do this every winter. It is technically a food storage system that has never required electricity, refrigerant, or a single dollar paid to a utility. But here is where the story gets harder to swallow, because the people who built our modern grid did not just want to sell you electricity, they wanted to make every alternative inconvenient, expensive, or illegal. And that is what brings us to the next set of tricks. The fifth trick is the wood-fired masonry oven, the sixth is the smokehouse, the seventh is the root cellar. Together, these three replace your refrigerator, your freezer, your oven, and most of your grocery bill. A masonry oven built from local stone holds heat for 30 hours after a single firing. You bake bread in the morning, roast meat at noon, dry herbs in the afternoon, and keep the kitchen warm overnight. The Amish have been building these since the 1690s in the Palatinate region of Germany, and they brought the design to William Penn's colony in 1737. The plans have not changed in 300 years because they did not need to. A smokehouse will cure pork, shoulder, beef, fish, and cheese for storage that lasts 12 to 18 months without refrigeration. The smoke from hickory, apple, or maple wood deposits natural preservative compounds called phenols and carbonyls into the meat. The USDA studied this in their Bulletin 1186 from 1924 and confirmed that properly smoked meats remain safe at room temperature for over a year. Try selling that meat across state lines today and you will face federal charges. The Amish smoke their own and feed their families. That is still legal. Selling it is what triggers the regulators. A root cellar is the eighth trick. 6 feet down, the soil temperature in most of the United States stays between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. That is exactly the temperature your refrigerator's lower drawer is trying to maintain at the cost of about $15 a month in electricity. A properly built root cellar costs about $600 and lasts 100 years. Potatoes keep 8 months. Carrots keep 6. Apples keep 5. Cabbage keeps 4. The numbers come from Penn State extension testing done in 1948. The ninth trick is the spring house. This is a small stone building built directly over a cold spring. The water flows through a stone trough on the floor. You set crocks of milk, butter, and cream in the trough, and the constant 50-degree water keeps everything fresh. I tasted butter from a spring house in Lancaster County that had been sitting there for 9 days. It was better than anything I have ever bought in a grocery store. The 10th trick is fermentation. Sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi-style cabbage, fermented beets, and lacto-fermented carrots. The Amish ferment vegetables in stoneware crocks that hold 2 to 10 gallons. Properly fermented vegetables keep for over a year without refrigeration and contain probiotics that no commercial product can match. The 11th is hard cheese aging in cool cellars. The 12th is honey storage. Raw honey, properly capped, never spoils. Archaeologists have eaten 3,000-year-old honey from Egyptian tombs and found it still edible. The Amish keep hives on most farms and harvest 40 to 80 pounds per hive every year. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. The 13th trick is one you can do this month in a house built any time in the last 150 years. It is called the cold corner pantry. In every old farmhouse I visited in Ohio and Pennsylvania, there was one corner of the kitchen, usually the northeast corner, where an unheated pantry was built. The walls of that pantry shared 1 or 2 outside walls. There was a small vent at the top and a small vent at the bottom, both screened to keep out mice and insects. Cold air came in the bottom in winter, warm air rose out the top, and the pantry stayed between 35 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit from October through April. That is 6 months of free refrigeration in a corner of your existing house. You do not need a contractor to build this. You need a closet or a corner of a room that has at least one exterior wall. You install one 4-inch round vent near the floor and one near the ceiling. With simple metal screens, you buy 2 adjustable vent covers so you can close them in summer. Total cost under $60. Total time, 1 Saturday afternoon. You can store potatoes, onions, squash, apples, hard cheese, eggs, butter, and root vegetables there for half the year without using a single watt of electricity. The 14th trick is the thermal mass wall. If you have a south-facing window in a room that gets cold, you put dark stone, brick, or water-filled containers in front of it. The sun heats the mass during the day, The mass releases heat slowly through the night. A row of dark-painted 5-gallon water jugs behind a south window can drop a room's heating bill by 20 to 30%. The Amish have done this for 2 centuries. It is called passive solar, and the Department of Energy published the exact specifications in a 1979 technical report that almost no contractor will mention. The 15th trick is the hand pump kitchen sink. Most people do not realize you can install a manual pitcher pump directly onto your existing kitchen counter, draw water from a rain cistern or shallow well in your yard, and have running water that works during any power outage. The pump itself costs about $140. The installation is 2 hours of work for anyone who can use a wrench. In an emergency, when the grid is down, you still have water in your kitchen. The Amish have these in every home, often right next to a modern faucet that uses pressurized cistern water. The 16th is the wood cook stove, not a fireplace, a real cast iron cook stove with a flat top, an oven, and a hot water reservoir on the side. A single stove heats the kitchen, cooks the meals, bakes the bread, and gives you 10 gallons of hot water per day, all from firewood you cut from your own land. A used Amish-made cook stove sells for between $800 and $2,000. New ones run $3,000 to $5,000. They last 100 years. Modern stoves last 12. The 17th trick is the kerosene refrigerator. The 18th is the propane refrigerator. Both of these run with no electricity, using a heat-driven absorption cycle invented by Carl Munters and Baltzar von Platen in Sweden in 1922. The Amish use them constantly. They are perfectly legal to own and operate, but most modern appliance stores refuse to stock them because the profit margins are lower than electric models. But here is where it gets darker, because every single one of these traditional methods used to be common in every American farmhouse before 1940, and then something changed. The Rural Electrification Act was signed by President Franklin Roosevelt on the 20th of May, 1936. It was sold as progress. It was also the moment when the federal government, working with private utilities, began a 40-year campaign to convince every American family that self-sufficiency was backward, dangerous, and unpatriotic. Extension agents went door to door telling farm wives that wood stoves were dirty, root cellars were unsanitary, and rainwater was unsafe. None of it was true. All of it sold meters, refrigerators, and monthly bills. The 19th trick is herbal medicine. Comfrey poultice for sprains, plantain leaf for stings and cuts, yarrow for stopping bleeding, mullein for coughs, elderberry syrup for flu, garlic for infections. The Amish use these every day. The plants grow wild in every state. The knowledge was suppressed not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well and could not be patented. The Flexner Report of 1910, funded by the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, deliberately closed every American medical school that taught herbal and traditional medicine, leaving only the pharmaceutical model standing. The 20th trick is bone broth, simmered for 36 hours at the back of the cook stove, which extracts the same collagen peptides that pharmacies now sell in $5 capsules. The Amish never bought the capsules. They drank the broth every winter morning before chores. The 21st trick is soap making from rendered fat and wood ash lye. 1 barrel of hardwood ashes, 1 bucket of beef tallow, and 1 Saturday afternoon produces enough soap to last a family of 8 an entire year. Total cost, almost nothing. The bar of organic Castile soap at the health food store costs $9. The 22nd is candle making from beeswax and tallow. A single brood box of hives produces about 12 pounds of wax per year, enough for 200 dipped candles that burn cleaner and longer than any paraffin product on the shelf. The Amish in Lancaster sell these to tourists for $8 a piece. They make them for under 20 cents. The 23rd is hand-churned butter from a single Jersey cow, which produces about 2 gallons of cream a week and yields enough butter to feed a family with a surplus to trade. The 24th is the treadle sewing machine, which still runs without electricity in thousands of Amish homes today and has never needed a software update. I watched a woman in Shipshawana hem a pair of work trousers in 9 minutes on a Singer machine her grandmother bought new in 1923. The needle was 31 years old and still sharp. In 1943, the United States Department of Agriculture published a bulletin recommending that American families dig clamps in their backyards for storing potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, and cabbages through the winter. A clamp is nothing more than a shallow pit lined with straw, filled with produce, covered with more straw, and then capped with 6 to 8 inches of soil. Done correctly, it will hold root vegetables at 34 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit from October until April, with no electricity, no refrigeration, and almost no spoilage. The Amish in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, have been doing this since the 1770s. By 1965, the USDA had quietly stopped recommending the practice, and most county extension offices today will tell you it is unsanitary, even though there is not a single documented case of foodborne illness from a properly constructed clamp in the entire historical record. Compare that to the more than 48 million cases of foodborne illness reported in the United States every year from our modern, refrigerated, inspected food system, and you start to wonder who exactly is being protected by the regulations. And before stainless steel and chlorine sanitizers, every dairy in America was whitewashed twice a year with a slurry of slaked lime and water. Lime is naturally antibacterial, antifungal, and reflective, which keeps the room cool and bright. A properly limed dairy stays at 62 degrees in the heat of August without any mechanical cooling. Eli Stoltzfus, a dairyman near Gap, Pennsylvania, told me last June that he has not had a single case of mastitis in his herd of 22 jerseys in 11 years. He milks by hand, cools the milk in 10-gallon cans submerged in spring water, and limes his dairy walls every March and every September. The state inspectors come twice a year and write him up every time for not having stainless steel surfaces, and every time he pays the fine, which runs about $240, and goes right back to doing it the way his grandfather did it. His milk test's cleaner than any grade A operation in the county. The inspectors know it, he knows it, but the rules are the rules, and the rules were written by people who sell stainless steel and chlorine. There is also the matter of how the Amish handle insurance, which they do not buy at all. Not health insurance, not life insurance, not crop insurance, not homeowners insurance. They have what is called the Amish Aid Plan, which is a mutual aid society that goes back to 1885. When a barn burns down, the community rebuilds it, usually within 3 days. When a member gets sick, the community pays the medical bills out of a common fund. When a family loses a breadwinner, the community supports the widow and the children. The average Amish family contributes about $1,800 a year to the aid plan. The average non-Amish American family pays over $28,000 a year for health insurance, life insurance, and homeowners insurance combined. And when disaster strikes, the Amish family gets help in 72 hours, while the non-Amish family files claims, fights, denials, and waits months or years for a payout that often does not cover the actual loss. In 1965, when Medicare was passed, the Amish were granted a religious exemption after a long legal battle that went all the way to the Supreme Court. The case was United States versus Lee, decided in 1982. The court ruled that the Amish could opt out of Social Security and Medicare because their community already provided what the government claimed it was providing. Read that sentence again. The Supreme Court of the United States acknowledged, in writing, that the Amish system works better than the federal one. Now we come to the 25th trick, the one I promised you at the beginning. Before I give you that 25th trick, one quick thing. Everything I have been digging out of these old USDA archives and these Amish farms, the hand pump well sunk in 1911, the gravity-fed cistern, the spring box, the sawdust ice house, the masonry oven that holds heat for 30 hours, the smokehouse, the root cellar, the spring house, the fermentation crocks, the cold corner pantry you can build in your kitchen this Saturday for $60, the thermal mass wall, the hand pump kitchen sink, the wood cook stove, the kerosene refrigerator, the herbal medicine, the bone broth, the lye soap, the beeswax candles, the hand-churned butter, the treadle sewing machine, the buried clamps for root vegetables, the lime-washed dairy, the breath line from the $8 Fix video, the buried clay jar from the cooling trench video, the stube wall from the heating video, and all the other pieces I have pulled out of Lancaster County and Holmes County over the years. I have put it all in one place, room by room, season by season, in the order the families actually use it. It is called the Amish Home System. Link is in the description. But stay right here, because what Henry Giese published in USDA Farmers Bulletin number 1797 is the design that holds your kitchen at 54 degrees through August with no power, no refrigerant, and no maintenance, and it costs $350 to build. This is the one I found buried in a 1937 USDA Farmers Bulletin number 1797, written by an agricultural engineer named Henry Giese at Iowa State College. The bulletin was titled simply Farm Cold Storage. It was distributed to 200,000 farm families before World War II. After the war, it quietly disappeared from extension office shelves. I had to track down a copy through an interlibrary loan from the National Agricultural Library in Beltsville, Maryland. Inside that bulletin is a design for what Giese called the Zero Energy Cooler. It is a small underground chamber, 4 feet by 4 feet by 6 feet deep, lined with concrete or stone, with a wooden lid insulated with straw or sawdust. You bury a single galvanized pipe, 4 inches in diameter, that runs from the bottom of the chamber, underground, sloping gently downward for 40 feet, and then turns upward and exits the ground at a screened opening in a shaded location. That is the entire system. Here is why it works, and here is why you have never heard of it. The Earth at 4 feet of depth holds a stable temperature between 50 and 55 degrees year-round in most of the United States. The pipe acts as a passive cooling tunnel. Warm air from outside enters the screened opening, travels through 40 feet of buried pipe, gives up its heat to the surrounding soil, and arrives in your storage chamber already cooled to about 55 degrees. Inside the chamber, the cold air sinks and stays. Warm air, displaced upward, exits through a second small vent at the top of the lid. There are no moving parts, there is no electricity, there is no maintenance. The whole thing costs about $350 in materials and lasts 50 years. Giese's measurements, taken in Iowa over 3 summers between 1,934 and 1,936, showed that the chamber held an average internal temperature of 54 degrees Fahrenheit during July and August, when outside air temperatures regularly exceeded 95 degrees, that is colder than your kitchen refrigerator, with no power forever. The Amish in Iowa and Wisconsin built dozens of these in the 1940s and 1950s. Many are still in use today, holding milk, butter, eggs, and produce for families who have never paid for refrigeration. You can build this in your backyard this weekend if you have a shovel, a piece of pipe, some concrete blocks, and a willingness to dig. The original bulletin is now in the public domain. You can find it through the USDA's National Agricultural Library Digital Archive under the call number A19-1000, 797. I am telling you this because it changed how I think about every single utility bill I have paid for the last 40 years. There is a version of this technique that fits any property, any climate, and any budget. The knowledge existed, it was buried, the Amish kept it alive, now you have it. That is the part nobody wanted you to know. Not the utility companies, not the appliance manufacturers, not the agricultural extension offices that quietly stopped teaching it after 1948. The technique was never illegal. It was just systematically forgotten, and forgetting was the most effective form of suppression ever invented. You came here looking for tricks the Amish use that the government does not want you to know. What you found is something bigger. You found that an entire way of life, one that was normal in this country for 300 years, was deliberately erased from public memory in less than 2 generations. You found that the people who erased it profited from your dependency. And you found that one community, dressed in plain clothes and driving buggies on country roads, refused to let it disappear. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. You already know that the most radical thing an American can do in 2025 is learn to live without sending a check to a utility company every month. I want you to do one thing for me before you leave. Go down to the comment section right now and tell me which of these 25 tricks surprised you the most. Was it the zero energy cooler from the 1937 bulletin? Was it the cold corner pantry you can build in your existing kitchen this weekend? Was it the spring house? or the ice house, or the masonry oven that holds heat for 30 hours? I read every single comment, and the techniques people mention most often are the ones I cover in detail in the next video. Speaking of the next video, I have been digging into something the Amish in Indiana have been doing with hydraulic ram pumps since 1872. These pumps move water uphill hundreds of feet with no electricity, no fuel, and no moving parts beyond two simple valves. There is one that has been running continuously on a farm near Shipshewana for over 90 years. The man who maintains it is the great-grandson of the man who installed it. I spent 2 days with him last fall, and what he showed me is going to be the next chapter in this story. If you want to be there when that video drops, subscribe now and turn on the bell, because this channel is not really about videos. It is about a movement of people who are quietly recovering everything that was taken from us, one technique at a time. The Amish never lost it. We did. And every single one of us has the chance, starting today, to take it back. The grid will go down. The bills will keep rising. The systems you depend on were never designed to serve you. They were designed to bill you. The men and women in the plain clothes driving the black buggies on the back roads of Pennsylvania and Ohio and Indiana figured that out 300 years ago. They never forgot. And now, neither will you. Welcome to the movement. I will see you in the next one.